Hey there.
Hello.
So we rented a movie the other day from Mr. Jeff Bezos.
Awesome.
We paid a lot for it.
Oh, that sucks.
It was like a new one. They were trying to save it until after COVID, but obviously that did not happen.
Yeah.
But it's a Tom Hanks movie, and so we're like, I mean, it's gonna be good. It's Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks, yeah. Chief ambassador for the Illuminati or whatever it is that's bad
Yes, basically. But no, it's called News of the World. Have you heard of this movie?
now. I have seen not the trailer. I didn't really watch it, but you know how it just auto starts on the main menu.
Yeah.
And it's like, why don't you watch News of the World?
I mean, it's pretty good. People are like thinking that it's the best thing ever. I think it's a good movie. It's entertaining. Like, I give it a B plus, maybe A minus. But like, this was the most Joe Biden-ass movie I've ever seen.
Oh, all right. Why? Did it keep forgetting its own plot?
No, not that bad. Although there were some disturbing child creepiness plots.
Creepiness towards children?
Creepiness towards children plots, yes. So the situation is Tom Hanks, he's a news reader, which I guess was a thing.
Like on the radio?
No, this is Old West. He goes to towns and reads the newspapers.
Oh,
for them.
wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah, which I'm like, that's an interesting conceit. Cool, yeah. I'm in. And then it gets revealed. So he's like in Texas at first, and he's reading at all these like southern towns, and it's like really awkward because he's reading about like he'll say like President Ulysses S. Grant, and everyone's like, fuck this guy. Like everyone goes crazy.
Yeah.
And at first you're like, oh, poor Tom Hanks, like having to deal with this. And then it's revealed, no, he defo fought in the Confederacy. And like, it's just uncomfortable.
But he's like otherwise seen as a good person,
Yeah, the rest of the movie, he's a nice guy. Like he saves this little girl.
Was he like an officer or just like
He was a captain.
I don't know, is a captain even, that's like an officer, right? Officer 3. Yeah, that's above a first lieutenant. So like, I mean, you weren't like a grunt. You weren't conscripted into the army if you were a captain. Okay, that's what I was trying to get at.
So, yeah, it's super weird because, like, there's a lot of this talk about, like, oh, like, we're not comfortable with these union guys running our towns. And, like, there's a lot of talk about unity and stuff. And, like, it's a good movie. But, like, sometimes it's like, what are you doing? We're allowed to hate these people, guys.
Yeah. Oh, unity. Yeah. No, there was a lot of that bullshit. And there has been, and there probably will continue to be.
It's going to get so much worse.
It's really dumb.
Like, spoilers, the climax of this is he is at this town. I don't know if it's the climax. It's a big part of it. He goes to this town that basically is like running its own shit. And it has like this rich guy in charge. Mm-hmm. And he basically owns the town. He wants him to read his own newspaper, which is just like propaganda of him like killing natives and stuff like that.
Yeah. And
he's like, no, I'm going to read like some other stuff. And so he like lets the town vote, and that's the big deal. Oh, it's a democracy. They voted on what they wanted to hear. And he ends up reading this story about like these miners that survived this mine collapse and blah, blah, blah. And it is weird because it gets really close to like a working class narrative, and like people are mad at this rich guy, and then it kind of just fizzles out.
Oh yeah,
they're throwing stuff at the wall here.
Because I guess, but from what you said, it sounds like the resolution to that storyline is that when given the choice between sensational bullshit and the truth, right? That people are smart enough to pick the truth, where that's the big like fight that matters versus like giving them the choice of who's in charge of their town, who makes the money from their mine or factory or whatever. That's not the important choice. Like economic democracy, it's all about making sure that, we have this enlightened whatever.
Yeah, and all the stories they choose to highlight that he reads and people really respond to are these like human interest fluff pieces. Like it's just really weird. It's just a weird, like there were things happening then, like big deal.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's strange. All right. Speaking of strange, speaking of rich people, let's get into the episode.
Okay, what are we talking about today?
Today we're going to be talking about your personal favorite thing in the world.
Delicious.
Charity.
Cool. Love it.
Charity, yeah. And I kind of wanted to, up top, before we get into an interesting reading, kind of talk about like why we're doing this, because I feel like most listeners are going to get, right, that charity is, not really enough. I mean, it can kind of like help people out in their immediate circumstances, but it's not enough to like fundamentally change things.
Yeah, it's not the solution.
Yeah, most people get that, right? So why are we then talking about it if our listeners are like, yeah, duh, charity. I mean, I think what we want to add to our understanding of it is that charity's not just like not enough to solve our problems, but actually can like entrench those problems in the system that causes it.
Yeah.
It's not just not revolutionary, but it can also be like reactionary because it'll help the capitalists like sustain themselves, like keep themselves in a position that they're less likely to get overthrown.
Yeah. I think that's fair. And I think, I don't know, I'm curious to hear what listeners think about this. I remember being super nervous about our small business episode because I thought people would like react negatively to it. But I think everyone was on board, from what I could tell. If anyone was pissed, they didn't leave a review about it. So
Yeah.
And I was nervous about that. Mm-hmm. And I feel similarly nervous about this because I think for most like average people or like most people, charity sounds good, Yeah. And like I've definitely donated to charities in the past. I still kind of do sometimes. Mm-hmm. Like I used to do donation commissions instead of getting paid. I would just be like, donate to whoever,
Right.
So I think it can be good on like a certain level, but like it's not the solution. And in an ideal world, we wouldn't have it.
Yes. Yeah. That's a good way to look at it. We don't want to say like, oh, charities, they actually take your money and go out and, kill people with it or something.
I don't want someone to feel bad for like giving $5 a month to Planned Parenthood or something,
Right. Yeah. And also that's just like talking like just donations to organizations is not necessarily the same thing. Like, but yeah, I think you're right on the main idea there, right? That it's not just bad they don't only.
It's not a black and white thing. Yeah. But we are going to talk about the less good parts.
Yeah. And that's kind of what we do here. People say, oh, you don't give the balanced account and stuff. And you want the other half.
You get the other side.
By osmosis.
Literally. Yeah, literally all the time you get the other side. So deal with it.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to this reading by this cool guy.
Yeah, we're going to be reading from a gospel. And not that sort of gospel. Not the sort of gospel that talks about it's harder for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven than it is for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle. Not that sort of gospel.
Not that one. Not the socialist one.
The Gospel of Wealth by Andrew Carnegie.
Man, it is kind of like they tried to combine my least favorite things, though. Church and charity. They're like, well, Christine hate the most.
And the reason we want to kind of dive into this, not a deep dive, but a shallow dive into this, is just see how the other side defends itself or how they portray this as a positive good.
Yes. If you would like to follow along, you can get this PDF at the Carnegie Foundation's website. That's where we got it. We'll also be uploading our notes onto Patreon. I drew a lot of offensive drawings.
Yeah, and I wrote some stuff. I even drew a couple of doodles. Not nearly as many, I'm sure, but
I drew so many like dicks and stuff, so... First, well, speaking of drawings, this PDF opens up with this ridiculous illustration. It's like an etching, and it says, let me send you this screenshot.
Okay. Whoa, let there be light.
Yeah.
Oh.
What
good.
kind of ego do you have on your head that you're like, yeah, before I start this article, can you get an illustration of some books and a torch and a scroll that says, let there be light, and then put my name under it? Like I said that? That's
great. Well, as we'll see, they have pretty much an unbounded ego. And this is just making me think of like the dark, it couldn't be like a darker timeline maybe, but maybe it could. The darker timeline where America starts down the Andrew Carnegie cult line and like he becomes a theocratic leader or something.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so we start at the beginning, the Gospel of Wealth.
Verse 1.
The problem of our age is the proper administration of wealth, so that the ties of brotherhood may still bind together the rich and the poor in harmonious relationship.
Okay.
Listeners, this is called class collaboration. It's the opposite of class struggle. It's a key part of fascism. The idea that there are classes, they're separate, distinct classes, and that's good, and they should work together.
Yeah, that is very fashy, isn't it?
Yeah. That was what stuck out to me at the very beginning, was just like,
Wow.
okay, all right, there we are.
Wow. He's got some cool racism.
About the Native Americans here?
Yeah, he says when he visited the Sioux, he was led to the wigwam of the chief. It was just like others in external appearance. And like, I'm reading this, I'm like, that's great.
That sounds good. Yeah.
And then he says, the contrast between the palace of the millionaire and the cottage of the laborer with us today measures the change which has come with civilization.
Good thing we're not doing barbarism anymore, right?
Yeah, God.
But anyone who had been working in the mines that he got the raw material to make his steel, or the steel mills themselves, will understand the actual barbarism that people still faced.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This was the steel guy.
Yeah. Carnegie Steel.
I just know him from Carnegie Hall.
Yeah. So initially he's making this case that civilization, that technological advancement has been good. And even though it's kind of brought about this inequality, it's still been great. He says, much better, this great irregularity in term, inequality there, instead of universal squalor.
Yeah, it's the whole like rising tide lifts all boats bullshit that like literally every capitalist will try to tell you, like, at least it's not the Dark Ages.
And they'll tell you that like communism's the opposite. That's where everybody's equal because everyone's equally starving, So just a little trope there. But it's also convenient when this inequality is like good and okay when you're like in the good section of it.
Yeah, right.
And so I think he kind of goes on to say, it's a waste of time to criticize this whole situation.
I highlighted that. That's good. I wrote, you mad, bro?
Yeah. He's kind of begging us not to liquidate him as a class, That's a waste of time.
Please don't look at this.
Yeah. Okay, so the next section I found really interesting, though, because he kind of goes on to lay out basically the economic history that like Marx and Engels spells out.
Yes, he was like so close to getting it. He came right up to the line and then was like, nah, just kidding.
Yeah, like it's without mentioning the exploitation part. It's just saying like the development of productive forces throughout the modes of history that we have talked about here before.
He gets it, but then takes the wrong conclusions of like, we should exploit more.
He even gets down to the point where he says, the employer can know little or nothing, and to whom the employer is little better than a myth. All intercourse between them, employer and employee, is at an end. Rigid castes are formed. The proletariat, the bourgeoisie.
Yeah, he gets it.
Like this mirrors the language in the preamble to the International Workers of the World Constitution. Written in 1905, it says, the working class and the employing class have nothing in common. And apparently, Andrew Carnegie agreed.
That's so weird. What year was this written in?
This was written in 1889. So maybe they stole it from Andrew Carnegie.
Listen, guys, we got a new father of socialism accidentally. An illegitimate father.
Yeah, and does not acknowledge his offspring.
We are the bastards of Andrew Carnegie.
I do like in here that he says, you know what, the poor enjoy what the rich could not before afford. He does that classic, like, oh, we have iPhones now, like it's good, But yeah, like the whole thing, he gets up to the point and then says, nah, but like it's actually like fine, it's okay.
This is good.
Yeah, it can't be changed, so please don't ask about changing it. But also, it's good,
Yeah, it's insane. Which is also like, if it's so good, then people wouldn't be asking to change it, bud.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just super content with this hierarchy. Like, he's like, oh, it's great. Like this last bit in this paragraph here, the laborer has more comforts than the farmer has more luxuries than the landlord has more stuff than the king. And it's like, there's still a hierarchy there, man. Like, you literally name out different classes.
Yeah. But again, the hallmark of fascism and apparently Carnegieism is that different classes are good and should just work together and be happy that they're in their station. The hat goes on the head. I kind of, he goes on to say, this is just how it is.
Oh, yeah, I did some good highlights. No substitutes for it have been found. He's just like the shrug emoji, like, I don't know what else to do, guys.
This is it. I don't know. It's what we got.
We're done. We finished human progress. He talks about survival in the fittest. That's pretty gross.
Yeah. Nasty.
Yeah. Pretty nasty stuff.
In case you are wondering about that, he does go on to elaborate later and just say exactly who should be alive and who shouldn't.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And like, he uses the term like future progress of the race. And I know he means the human race, but it's a little gross.
It is.
Because, he's thinking of one race in particular.
Yeah, that is off-putting.
His favorite.
I agree that it is just meaning humanity, but yeah.
It's a little gross.
I like this. As he kind of goes on here, he ends up saying, he's making the argument that like, yeah, this is just how it is. He says, it is a law as certain as any of the others named, that men possessed of this peculiar talent for affair, under the free play of economic forces, must of necessity soon be in receipt of more revenue than can be judiciously expended upon themselves. And this law is as beneficial for the race as the others.
How is that beneficial?
Well, for one,
there's a lot to unpack there.
It's great that like, that's good that he, that naturally him, and other men like him will just get all this shit. That's just natural and good somehow.
Well, I want to talk about this natural thing because he goes into this for a bit. Like before that, he says like this talent for organization and management is rare among men. For such men soon create capital, while without the special talent required, capital soon takes wings. Like, are you born and then someone puts a dollar sign on your head? Like you're special.
This is a common argument among capitalists, is that like, if you were to redistribute all the money equally, all the wealth equally, that soon thereafter it would end up back in the same hands because those people are just better, obviously morally and everything better. They're just better.
It's
smarter,
insane.
More capable.
I'm just like, how the fuck do you explain? Like, to me, this is inherently racist because it's like, how the fuck do you explain the racial wealth gap without getting into some nasty eugenicist bullshit?
Yeah, that's left unsaid, honestly, here. But yeah, that's a part of it. I guess credit to him for leaving that unsaid and not just coming out and
he
saying
didn't
it.
just say.
But still, yeah, that's the unspoken part. Is poor people are poor because they deserve it. And then if you look at the racial composition therein, well, then you end up with races who deserve it.
Exactly. Like it's literally the talent of being white.
Then he goes on to make sure that to put our sorts of people in their place. Communists, socialists, anarchists, fuck them, basically, he says.
He says, don't do that. If thou dost not sow, thou shalt not reap. And thus ended primitive communism by separating the drones from the bees. What the fuck are you?
I mean, some people are drones and some people are bees. It's exactly like the con man says in Better Call Saul. He says, they're a wolf and they're a sheep,
Yeah, come on, sheeple. I drew a dick over this paragraph, by the way.
Oh, well, I love this mischaracterization, because he's either talking about anarcho-primitivists, which he's not, or he's talking about communists, that in this sort of straw man way of saying that we want to like turn back the clock. Which is not what that is. Yeah, like we don't want to just be in what he calls primitive communism or in tribes again or just hunter-gatherers, that's not it. We want to like move to a new stage. He never bothered to learn. Yeah, he just heard about like everyone equal, like the Sioux? Yeah, like the Sioux tribes that I visited. Yeah.
It's insane. Like he literally says, the race has tried that. Like we tried it. We failed. How many times have you heard this? Yeah. We tried it. It didn't work. We tried that. Yeah. And as opposed to as opposed to our efforts in capitalism that have totally worked. Or we see. We are recording on January 30th, guys. It's a clown show out there. Yeah. Yeah, I can't imagine anyone looking at this and saying, this has worked. This makes sense. But, people do. Like, his whole, like, we have iPhones. That's like a common argument among capitalists. Is like, the world is more developed than it's ever been, It's great. For some people. Yeah. They just don't make that second connection. Yeah. And plus, communists like us, he says, we're stupid because our plan necessitates the changing of human nature, itself a work of eons, even if it were good to change it, which we cannot know. Can't change human nature, bro. My human nature. God.
It's not practical,
It's just like, it's so clear. I mean, from stem to stern, this paper is so clear what he thinks of poor people. Like, he thinks human nature is to be shitheads. Like, that is what he thinks.
Yep. Yeah. Except for the noble
Except
few.
for the chosen few.
Yeah. It's Calvinist in that way, right? Some people are.
Yeah, city on a hill.
Some people are right. Most people are not. We got to depend on
predestination.
Yep. There you go. So now that we've knocked that out of the way, we know there's no change coming.
Okay, cool. Shut the podcast down. Back it up.
Well, Carnegie offers, okay, we got to come up. The only thing we can do is work with the system we've got. That's it. And the only question then we have to deal with is how do we administer all this wealth that just so happened to drop in my lap and in the laps of people like me, good people,
Poor me. What am I going to do with all my money?
Yeah, that's this essay. What am I going to do with all my money?
God, can you imagine? just having those conversations, having so much money that you have to literally set up these fake ass businesses.
Ridiculous. So then he spells out, okay, well, what are the options? What are your options with all this money, right? What can you do? You could leave it to your family as an inheritance when you die.
Mm-hmm. And then he shits on that.
Yeah, he says, that's kind of fantastic that he says this, right?
I know. I was like, I like this part.
This is wild. He says it's not a good idea. Don't do that. I agree. But yeah, he says that's a bad idea. That'll either spoil your kids or basically that's the main thing is it's not going to go to good use,
Yeah. So this is the 5% of the essay that wasn't total dog shit.
Yeah. He also says don't just leave it to, the government or whatever. Don't leave it don't wait till you're dead, pretty much, because people will, you won't care because you'll be dead, People might fuck it up because they're stupider than you and they don't know how to run your money because you're cool and, you're a brilliant millionaire and they're just low-life losers, so they're going to waste your money. And also people will just think you're an asshole because you held on to it your whole life.
That's true. He says men who would not have left it at all had they been able to take it with them. And it's like, some Scrooge shit.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And then he strangely advocates for the inheritance tax.
I didn't see this one coming. This is another part of that 5% that didn't suck.
Yeah. Pro-death tax. So we like that. We dig that.
Good job. See, look, we're being fair and balanced.
Yeah, fair and balanced. I would just, add to the record, however, that he doesn't want to touch that money while they're alive. He wants them to run it themselves. It's fair, tax them 100%, whatever. Once they die, but leave them alone while they're alive. So, so anyway, he says, don't do, those are bad options. The best thing is for rich people to do with their, to do good things with their money. Mm-hmm. The reconciliation of the rich and the poor, a reign of harmony. There's that class collaboration again. Love to see it.
I'm picturing happy toiling serfs. So
Yay,
grateful.
This is good. We're doing our part. It's like in Starship Troopers. I'm doing my part.
Yeah, he accuses communists of wanting to overthrow civilization again. Cool.
Yeah. Who needs civilization? I mean, who needs anything that can keep you alive? We don't need that. That's, of course, what we're arguing for here.
Okay, so his plan, his big, good plan, is we'll have an ideal state in which the surplus of wealth of the few will become, in the best sense, the property of the many.
Yeah.
Because administered for the common good.
Sounds good.
Like that part, all right, I like shared property.
Yeah.
Passing through the hands of a few.
Oh. Ouch.
Can be made much more potent force for the elevation of our race than if it had been distributed in small sums to the people themselves. There's that inherent distrust of people.
Yeah, I do like basically that whole passage I had highlighted and just crossed out through and put from, and that would work well.
Passing from the hands of you,
and just
that'd be great.
Yeah, just because he's making an argument, right, that essentially we can do more with our resources pooled together than we can with them separated, and that's true.
Yeah, I got you there.
He's just doing it the wrong way.
He's so close. We just need to go back in time and get drunk with Andrew Carnegie and get him on our side.
But yeah, we'll go hang out with him, convince him to do cool things instead.
I think it'll work. Even the poorest can be made to see this. like they're so fucking dumb, apparently, and to agree that the great sums gathered by some of their fellow citizens and spent for public purposes, from which the masses reap the principal benefit, are more valuable to them than if scattered among them through the course of many years in trifling amounts. Like, he's just saying we don't have to pay these people.
Yeah. Why should I pay my workers more when I can just rip them off and then give them back a little bit of it?
It's insane. Oh my God.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. And the reason that he thinks that it's bad to pay them more, it's bad to scatter trifling amounts to them, is that he says here, would have been wasted in the indulgence of appetite, some of it in excess.
Oh my God. Like, who are you to decide? Like, why are you the money police?
That is the thing,
because you are money and police, but you own both of those things. But it's so gross. It's that whole policing of poor people's spending, you know? Like when someone uses food stamps for like a nice meal, people are mad about it.
Yeah, you should be buying rice and beans or something, you know. Yeah. It's paternalism. They want to be in control of it, you know.
Absolutely.
They want to be like curing the sins of these terrible poors.
Ugh, so gross. So gross.
Yeah. He talks about this Cooper Institute, which is what they called the Cooper Union back now, which is it was a free university.
Okay.
I think right now they're like a very cost supported university, but they're not free, but they're like planning to go free again in the future, but they like messed up their money. Anyway, Cooper Union is what he's talking about.
They didn't spend it wisely?
Yeah. Somebody messed it up because they weren't smart.
They weren't
enough.
one of the chosen few.
Yeah. And he's talking about just how awesome this place is and says, let the advocate of violent or radical change ponder well this thought. So I flipped him off for that one. Like, fuck you.
Yeah.
I've pondered it and it's still stupid.
It's still a bad thought. Should have been kept in the drafts.
The next thing I have is just a couple paragraphs down. He goes on to elucidate the rich man's burden. Almost said the white man's burden. Same thing, but...
Truly, where's the difference?
But rich men should be thankful for one inestimable boon. They have it in their power during their lives to busy themselves in organizing benefactions from which the masses of their fellows will derive lasting advantage and thus dignify their own lives.
Listeners, I'm just going to tease out what you would get if you subscribe to our Patreon. There's a very obscene drawing next to this one. So just, yeah.
Deserve it, man, because this is just like, you know, our mission is to let there be light, like that picture at the beginning, is to bring some meaning to the otherwise pointless, toiling lives of these poors.
God. It is completely paternalistic. It is just so like, who has that much of an ego? Like, I mean, I know the answer. It's rich people, because like they just have literally never heard someone say no in their lives.
Yeah.
They don't understand what that is like, but it is wild to conceive.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Speaking of ego, the next sentence is him comparing his class to Christ. So there you go.
Oh, God. And he even, who's Count Tolstoy? Is that like
That's like
the
Tolstoy,
writer Tolstoy?
Yeah. He was a count,
Okay.
actually, yeah.
I didn't know he was a count. That's kind of fun. But he even like says like, no, it's not the socialist Christ. It's ours.
Yeah. the improved Christ 2.0.
Not that Jesus.
The real one, the good one, the rich one.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. He lays out his thesis again, basically, in the next paragraph. He likes to repeat himself.
Also in the next sentence, because this paragraph is one sentence.
Oh, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Lots of semicolons.
Yeah. Well, what's his thesis then?
He needs an editor. Okay, so he says, first, set an example of modest, unostentatious living, shunning display or extravagance. Like,
Okay, live frugally.
here's the thing. You know what would help you live frugally is if you
Didn't
have that much money.
Yeah, that makes
I'll
it
help you
easy,
with that
man.
one.
Yeah.
Okay, but this is the thing, though, like that happens today. People love it when rich people, like, don't live extravagant. Like, oh, look at the shitty car they drive still. And it's like, it doesn't. Whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
cool.
Cool job. Like, that does not make me like them more.
Yeah, I also drive a shitty car, but like no one applauds me. Why? I expect applause every time I pull out of my driveway now.
Whoa, that Yaris. All right. Second, to provide moderately for the legitimate wants of those dependent on him.
Okay. Look after your dependents.
That's okay.
Don't be a deadbeat.
After doing so, consider all surplus revenues which come to him simply as trust funds, which he is called upon to administer. Oh, thank you.
Bringing to their service, meaning the poor people, his superior wisdom, experience, and ability to administer, doing for them better than they would or could do for themselves.
This one's just oh, man. I know we said we weren't doing a deep dive, but Jesus, this one's rough. This one's rough. My levels kind of spiked there. I'm sorry, but that's a bad one.
The rich people know best, man.
Yeah, apparently. Papa knows best.
They're smarter. They're better. They have superior wisdom. I mean, he just says they're better.
He literally, yeah, mask off. We are better people than you. He continues this thought even further. It were better for mankind that the millions of the rich were thrown into the sea than so spent as to encourage the slothful, the drunken, the unworthy.
I mean, that is, you know, we kind of teased it. We kind of gateway drugged you there with the paternalism before, but now we're getting to the raw, uncut paternalism, like straight into the veins.
It's nasty, man. Just this guy. Apparently he's so good at money, he knows how everyone else should spend their money.
Yeah, well, and also everyone else is so stupid at money that...
Apparently. He'd rather dump his money into the ocean than give it to a homeless person.
Well, you know, he gives this example of this guy who donated a quarter to some beggar. Mm-hmm. And he says, you know, well, I mean, he had every reason to suspect that this guy would just blow this quarter on booze or whatever. And he says that this guy, he only gratified his own feelings, saved himself from annoyance, and this was probably one of the most selfish and very worst actions of his life.
That's the most selfish, not the fact that this is a rich motherfucker who probably exploits his workers. This is the worst thing he's ever done.
Which makes the guy sound pretty good, honestly.
Yeah, that's the worst thing you've done.
Yeah, especially in comparison to Andrew Carnegie. Better than him, who his steel company brutally crushed the Homestead strike, killing 7 workers.
Oh, yeah, that was him.
That was him. Also, he was a member of the South Fork Fishing and Hunting Club, whose negligence allowed the South Fork Dam to fail in 1889, causing the Jonestown flood, which killed 2,209 people.
Cool. Yeah. So he's killed 2,000 and change.
Yeah. And change from his point of view. That's probably, you know, he's admiring this guy and saying, I wish the worst thing I did was give a quarter to some beggar. Insane. God. And there's just so much classic bullshit in this. Like, I felt like I was just reading. It's a greatest hits.
I don't even know. Yeah, it really was greatest hits. Yeah.
This is, you know, not directly, but this is the mindset from which all of the stuff that we're about to bitch about sprang. Is this mindset of, you know, we should help those who will help themselves, you know?
Yes, it literally says that here.
The deserving poor.
Those worthy of assistance, except in rare cases, seldom require assistance. This person, I don't think he's ever met a poor working person. I don't think he has. Yeah. And he even says it earlier that they're so stratified. I don't think he has. I don't think he's met a poor person.
The crazy thing is that he does kind of acknowledge that there are some exceptions or whatever, because he himself benefited from charity when he was younger. That's how he got an education. He was educated at the free school in Dunfermline by like a grant that he got from a philanthropist. So he's like, you know, sometimes people need a leg up, because I did, but most of the time, no.
It's insane.
He is the only true reformer who is as careful and as anxious not to aid the unworthy as he is to aid the worthy, and perhaps even more so, for in almsgiving more injury is probably done by rewarding vice than by relieving virtue.
Like, what the fuck? I mean, you literally hear this all the time. Don't give that homeless person money. They're going to spend it on drugs. Yep. Have you seen the great tweet that flips that, though?
No.
There's a tweet going around that's like, I saw a homeless person. I thought about giving him money. I didn't want it to be spent on drugs, so I gave it to the homeless person.
Nice.
It's a thinker, but it's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, no, if you leave it in my control. All right, so then how do you, I mean, our big mission here is to help, but not help the wrong way, and let these poors, you know, go out and be debauched.
Let's put on our capitalist hats. According to Andrew Carnegie, how am I supposed to spend all my a bunch of money? I got a pile of money back here. What do I do with it?
You could build a park. Cool, you could build a museum. You could build like a library, other things that are generally like appreciated by, anyone who's smart and good enough to use them, but that can't be converted into like vices,
Okay. Here's the thing. I love parks. I love libraries. I love all those things. Sure. Those things are good.
They're great.
But like, especially considering the time period, this guy is a motherfucking Gilded Age, like baron.
Yeah.
You don't think there's maybe some other needs we're not addressing, like fucking food and housing?
But they could, you don't want to do that. Then if they're that comfortable, why are they showing up to break their backs in my steel mills?
Yeah, it is just the leap they take. Again, I love all these things. Like
sure,
it is hard to argue with these things because, someone's going to come up in the DMs like, well, actually parks like are beneficial.
Parks are dope.
Blah, blah. I'm like, they are. They're definitely
parks,
beneficial. Yeah. They're very good for people. Same thing with like the arts. Obviously, I'm pro arts, but like, I feel like these things are just a way of sidestepping material needs. One, by paying your fucking workers, and two, by like actually materially helping poor people.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the age he's talking about, and in our current age, these things can be policed very heavily to keep the wrong sorts of people from using them.
Oh yeah. Do you think actually that homeless people can like go into museums? Like, if they do go, I bet they're watched very closely.
Yeah. And, the same thing with parks at, during the day even, but also like at, especially at night.
Yeah. The whole hostile architecture thing, like parks are now being explicitly made to deter homeless people. And
this is part of the reason that he thinks these are good, is because these are controllable. Once you let the money go into the hands of people, of the undeserving, then they then can freely, waste it or whatever. So yeah, buy all that stuff, fund all those things, and thus is the problem of rich and poor to be solved.
We did it.
Hooray.
So he goes into more detail of like the things he thinks are worth donating to. Like he writes a second essay. And at the beginning of this second essay, he talks about how much everyone loved the first essay.
Nice.
So
just takes a victory lap?
Basically, yeah.
Awesome.
Everyone loved it. It was great. So then he's like, well, since everyone loved it, let me explain some more
Round
about
two.
like, what specifically you should donate to or set up.
All right.
So first, universities.
Okay.
And I'm like, who can afford to go to these schools except for your shithead kids?
Yeah. At the time, this was not like, more or less, universities can sort of serve as a stepping stone up into middle class. It's like a ladder up kind of now, but not then.
Yeah. I don't understand. Like, again, all these things can be good. Like, yeah, you can have a university do a study that's very good for people, but like, it is a system that inherently is going to support the people who are paying for it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not a great one. Second, library. That's a good one. He also, you mentioned earlier that he like went to this free school. Apparently, he also benefited from a rich guy who let the neighborhood come in for his books.
Ah, okay.
So, that's nice.
Yeah.
Third, founding or extension of hospitals, medical colleges, laboratories, and other institutions connected with the alleviation of human suffering, especially with the prevention rather than cure of human ills, which I thought was weird.
Fine. Sure. As long as you're offering that care for free.
Yeah, I don't know. That to me is like, yeah, because the private funding of medicine has never fucked us over. See women's health, Black maternal death rate, and the pandemic.
You don't think they're going to equitably distribute that somehow?
I don't know. Still waiting on that one. Fourth, parks. I already talked about parks. They're good.
Yeah.
Sure. Gosh, so he just has another quote in this. Like, I basically saying, like, I think parks are better than if he had given his surplus money to furnish them with bread, or for those in health who cannot earn their bread are scarcely worth considering by the individual giver. The care of such being the duty of the state. Except you won't give your money to the state either.
He just complained and said that the state shouldn't be doing that. Because it does boil down to the survival of the fittest thing that he mentioned before. He does want these people to just die.
Yeah, for sure. He'd rather give them beautiful flowers, orchids, and aquatic plants, which they, with their wives and children, can enjoy in their spare hours.
Wow. The spare hours that he doesn't want to give them, but...
Healthcare, please.
Yeah, I mean, hey, again, parks, good thing, but it's Maslow's, man. You got to have, like, the necessities of life.
Yeah. I'm not going to go wander around a park when my fucking teeth are falling out.
Yeah. Crazy.
Fifth, he says concert halls, which I think it's very funny that when we started this, I did say I know this guy from Carnegie Hall instead of, him killing 2,000 people.
Yeah.
So it worked, Andrew. You've cleaned your slate.
Good investment.
Yeah. I wanted to say this one. So I have a friend who's in like the orchestra industry and like they're super conservative and it's very difficult for them. And they started doing blind auditions now in most orchestras, which helps, but it's still very challenging. Like you have to dress pretty conservatively and like most of the time you're going to be playing the same fucking shit over and over. Like it's really hard for people who are interested in like contemporary music or like avant-garde shit to like make a living. And this is why. Because rich people pay for it.
And rich people pay for it. Rich people patronize it. Like, oh man. This is from the old world when we'd gone to like a couple symphony shows down in the Houston
the before times.
Yeah. I love it, like the music and just just sounds it's crazy good, and it was just like the Houston Symphony. It wasn't, I don't know, New York Philharmonic or something. And I'm not very sophisticated, so I just liked it. But it was weird because like everyone there is fucking fancy dressed and it just all looks like so upscale and like you're with this weird section of society that I don't have any familiarity with.
Yeah, I went to, in the before times, I went to a Hamilton show when it finally came to Dallas. And like, there are these teens behind me, like on their phones and like, just like, they're like, wait, so who is this guy? Like, and this was at the intermission. They like didn't know who he was by then. And I was like, all right, what are you doing here, you rich fuck? Like, you don't deserve this. Sixth, he wants swimming baths, which I guess are just pools in that time.
Okay.
Seventh, he says churches, but he says like they're reserved for last because it's sectarian.
Fair enough.
I'm like, if they're reserved for last, maybe don't put them on at all. But okay.
I mean, if that's all you got in your area, or you have, well, I guess the opposite. If you have all the other things, right, then you have to. Fine, I guess I'll help the church.
I guess so. Anyway, that's the end of his list. This is a bad reading. You can read it if you want, but it's a bad one. I'll just go ahead and tell you.
I hate read it. It's funny.
I hate read it.
At least
it's
the first section. I didn't even read the second section because I didn't realize it was there. But
I skimmed it because I was getting annoyed.
Andrew Carnegie, dumbass extraordinaire.
And it's still with us today.
Yeah.
This bullshit is out there.
It really is. Let's kind of go through, I guess, and talk about, in our second section here, why charity actually is dumb.
Yes.
Or not always bad, like we said, but like...
not good.
Yeah. Not our goal or not what we should rely on to solve social problems.
Yes.
Reason number one. Charity... like this is dependent upon the generosity of people like Andrew Carnegie, the generosity of the rich who 99 times out of 100 did not get there by being more generous than their rivals.
Yeah. So this is my fundamental issue with this. It is just the paternalism of it and just the instability of it. Yeah. Because at any moment they can just be like, no, I'm going to keep this instead.
Yeah. I mean, if you make them mad or something, if like as a society we're like, oh, fuck the rich, they can just be like, oh, fine, I'll just take my ball and go home. They just leave,
Yeah.
Or in this case, just like not give to charity.
Yeah, it's completely arbitrary and dependent on the whims of some dude I don't know. Like, fuck that.
Which is, and I don't know, why should our, when we say our, like us here, the hosts of your podcast, we're not really in this situation, but so many people, why should their lives like depend upon, and I mean like their real sustenance, why should that depend on whether these rich people feel nice enough to allow them to live?
Yeah. Like, don't they just deserve to live?
Yeah. They shouldn't have the permission of some sort of billionaire to say, yeah, they're worthy of life, because a lot of times they don't think that.
Clearly.
You said they're undeserving. Don't give them anything. Whatever you do, like give them something that they can't abuse. Like,
yeah. So I want to talk about the second part of this point, which is that they didn't get there by being more generous than their rivals. Like, just they got this money through bad shit.
yeah.
So I found this book called Just Giving: Why Philanthropy is Failing Democracy and How It Can Do Better. It's by Rob Reich.
Okay.
I didn't read the book, but I read interviews with the author.
Okay.
So, but you can find those like at Stanford, and then there's an interview with Vox. And I thought this was really funny. At one point, they talk about the Rockefeller Foundation, which when it was founded, former President Teddy Roosevelt and then President William Howard Taft announced it. And Roosevelt declared, "No amount of charities and spending such fortunes can compensate in any way for the misconduct in acquiring them."
Damn.
And I was like, damn, TR, we're best friends.
Yeah,
like,
that's
a good
that's
one.
a pretty cool quote. He was a dirty imperialist, so I mean, he's not your best friend.
Yeah, no, he sucks. He's not my best friend at all. But that time he had it right.
Yeah, that's a good call. And so much of this is in Carnegie's case, in anybody's case, an effort to like look better, right? It's just like a attempt to kind of paper over, like you said, the sins that you committed on your way to getting that wealth.
Absolutely. Yeah, these people did some fucked up shit to get their money. Like, and now they're going to act like they're fucking benevolent givers.
Yeah. And I guess we shouldn't have to have these people or anyone like be the arbiters of whether we're going to exist. Like, we should just guarantee people that the right to exist comfortably, as leftists. That should just be our goal.
For sure, for sure. Like, people have intrinsic worth whether or not they can get lots of money. Like, they're worth more than that.
Yeah. Another point I guess I wanted to raise on this subject about charity being dependent on the generosity of the rich is that it really distorts society's incentives. If your social welfare depends on rich people doing this, then it makes logical sense to do whatever you can in your society to make the rich capitalists happy. Like, you should be trying to give more money away to them so that they will give more money to charity, right?
That's a good point. Yeah, it is this like, instead of just taking that hose and sticking it right into the poor people, you have to first stick it into them, and then they can
dribble out a little bit.
Out some.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's very fucked up.
And so it makes it a society that for its own self-interest should try to help out this billionaire class so that they can get more of the drippings, the scraps.
Oh, for sure.
Even though like the inequality that makes us dependent upon their largesse is because of the capitalist system.
It's their fault.
Yeah, it's their fault.
Absolutely.
But we are supposed to be giving them more so that they'll give us more of what they ripped off from us. It's bizarre.
Yeah, yeah, it's very weird.
So yeah, first of all, that.
Not a good system to predicate the survival of millions of people. That's a bad one.
Yeah, Exhibit A would be like the world.
Yeah. Have you seen it? It's bad. Don't try to tell me it's okay because I have an iPhone. It doesn't make it okay.
Yeah, having an iPhone will do precious little to save you from environmental Armageddon.
Mm-hmm. So another one, this is one of my big issues with charity, is there's a lot of religious restrictions or just restrictions in general. Mm-hmm. But I think particularly growing up in a southern state, there's a lot of religious restrictions.
Yeah, because those are very popular. Charities are those with some sort of religious affiliation that aren't always worn openly on their sleeve, You don't really think about it so much. I mean, like Salvation Army kind of, I guess it's in the name, but you don't really think about it being like overtly religious necessarily, unless you know a little bit about them.
Yeah, because every year you see a social post saying like, hey, don't donate to them. They like discriminate against LGBTQ people and like don't let them benefit from them. Right. So fuck that.
But most people's encounter with them has no religious connotation. You just see them on their way into a Walmart,
Yeah, it's a bell. You put in money, you feel good.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I help the poor,
You help some of the poor.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think to me, this is tied to that reason number one of it all flowing from the rich is that to be benefactors of their generosity, we have to meet their conditions. Otherwise, they'll just not give, right? And so we have to prove that we're in the deserving poor rather than the unworthy. And we have to meet whatever their requirements are, whatever those restrictions are, we have to toe that line.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we saw this last week in Open Veins. Like, whether it's on an individual level or country level, there's strings attached.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in, the micro level, that's like, okay, you have to have a job and you can't miss any of your, like, probation shit and, like, all the stuff that is really fucking hard for a poor person to do. Like, because if something goes wrong, anything goes, your car breaks down. Fuck, now you're taking the bus. You better not be late for work. Like, it's so precarious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it comes from what we just saw in that demented reading. It comes from this idea that the poor are really just, degenerate. They are incapable. They're, malformed spiritually or whatever, that they can't do these things for themselves. They don't have the capability of it. They need someone there, some strict parent figure to get them on the straight and narrow.
Did you ever read that book or have to read that book like I did, Nickeled and Dimed?
No.
I read it in, like, middle school, and for reader or listeners who don't know, it's about this lady. I guess she seems like wealthy, middle class maybe. Mm-hmm. And she's a writer. And then she basically lives as a poor person for a while. It's pretty weird. It's definitely problematic. And I haven't read it in, like, obviously 10 plus years.
Yeah.
But I remember, like, the class discussion on this got really fucking hung up on, they started judging this lady because she smoked weed at one point and then had to spend money on like a cleansing kit to not test negatively. And they're like, well, why'd she smoke weed? I'm like, probably because she's, like, tired and in pain from, like, being in these jobs that are, like, killing her.
And also just like, everyone loves to get to that point where they're judging somebody else's, like, life and say, why did they,
for sure.
Why did they do this stupid thing? It's like, dude, they're just a human. I don't know. They're like you, man. Like,
sometimes you do stupid shit.
Yeah. It's just like,
also weed's cool.
Yeah. It's stupid in the context, I guess, of what they have to do. But, like, sometimes, yeah, you just like to have a drink or, like, exist as a human, like, blow off some fucking steam, Order, like, a coffee sometimes.
Oh, God, yeah. You don't deserve lattes.
Eat some avocado toast. Like, just exist as a person. And everyone wants to get over there and be like, oh, now you should be, again, eating rice and beans. You should be doing whatever, just bread and water. Like, I don't know.
It's insane.
They just want to.
They're stripping their humanity from them, is what it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They're less than. They don't deserve what you deserve. Mm-hmm. Like, you should cancel your Netflix subscription or whatever and just, not have, I don't know, any sort of thing.
Not have a life. Yeah. Basically, toil. Please get back to toiling. Mm-hmm. Horrifying.
So, yeah, restrictions in general, they're there to, like you said, strip the humanity from people and, go on this gross path of reforming them, making them worthy or whatever. Basically, disciplining them into being better workers for these capitalist overlords.
For sure. Yeah.
Reason number 3, charity is money laundering for the rich.
I got some good stats on this, baby.
Excellent.
All right. Some of this is from that Rob Reich stuff. And then, hold on. This one's from philanthropyroundtable.org. The IRS approves over 99.5% of all charitable applications.
So, like, you create a charity, and you apply to get it registered as a charity, and it's good to go?
Uh-huh.
So if we were to start, like, a commune or something, and, like, start a commune fund and invest it in the stock market so we could, like, rip people off with, like, GameStop stocks or something, I don't know.
Sure, why not? Let's start a GameStop commune.
And, yeah, but we'll register it as a charity.
Sounds like it's going to be pretty easy.
Just so we don't become one of the 0.5%, we should leave commune out of the name, I guess. But
I guess so.
That's wild. Okay, so easy to do.
Very easy to do. It's obviously tax subsidized. The U.S. Treasury spends more than $50 billion in foregone revenue because they don't fucking tax charities. So.
That's done on purpose, like, in terms of its initial design even. Like, the reason that they carved that out, these exemptions in the tax, you don't have to pay taxes on the income that you give to charity, was because when that initially, like, came about, the argument was, hey, look, these philanthropists, man, they're giving all this money and stuff. If we take it away from them in taxes, they're going to stop doing that. So we're going to have to end up footing the bill. So it's cheaper to just let them donate tax-free so that they do their thing and we don't have to start paying for those poors,
It's insane. It just totally passes the buck, literally. Yes.
Yeah.
So this Rob Wright guy gives an example that like kind of blew my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about tax deductions, if you want to be the most generous person and be like, okay, maybe you're for tax deductions on charity giving.
Yeah.
But when you look at it in situ, it gets kind of crazy. So a wealthy person taxed at 40% of their annual income makes a gift of $1,000 to a soup kitchen.
Okay.
The government will forgive 40% or $400 of this gift.
Okay.
So the cost of their $1,000 donation to them ends up being $600.
Okay.
But if you're a middle class person and you're donating $1,000 and you get taxed at 20%, which is a lower tax rate, sure, 20%, that's
Cool.
lower than 40%, right? Yeah. You are forgiven $200. So you ended up paying $800 while the rich person paid $600. How does that make sense, guys?
Yeah, these tax write-offs for charitable donations, they increasingly benefit only the rich. And also, of course, whoever benefits from the charity. Sure, but like they like disproportionately benefit the rich.
Yeah, it's like a thing where like even if I wanted to help out a soup, like it's going to cost me way more to help.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. In the 2017 Republican tax bill, they nearly doubled the standard deduction, which for most people is what you take when you file your taxes. Even if you go through the trouble of entering into TurboTax or whatever, you enter in all the possible deductions. Usually at the end of it, it comes out and it says, hey, you're going to just like take the standard. I don't know why you entered all that shit.
You wasted your time.
Yeah. And you're like, well, fine, whatever. They increase that.
That's why I just do the standard.
Yeah, more people do that. And so therefore more people are just like categorically out of the charitable, like they don't get any benefits from charitable tax breaks because they don't deduct. So they don't get it at all.
Oh, so it's like it's a higher threshold to me. Like I would have to donate $1 bajillion in order to get benefits from it.
Well, you wouldn't, like you just pay the standard deduction anyway. So no matter what you do charity wise, you're just going to pay the same tax rate for most people.
For most people, yeah, they won't even qualify for that.
Then you get into, okay, well, let's talk about if you are doing deductions. They also doubled the amount of your income that you can donate tax-free to charities. It used to be 30%, now it's 60%. So you can, of whatever income you make that year, you can donate 60% of it to charity tax-free. The only people who donate 60 or 30 or 15% of their income
who can do that?
to charity are rich people who don't need their income, who are like living off of wealth that generates, interest, and the income's supplemental, or they just need a little bit. They just need enough to live, and the rest is fine, right?
Yeah.
So that's just rich people. And in addition to what you were saying about the proportion thing, it's absurd.
Insane.
It's crazy.
It's a bad one.
So tax evasion, that's a clever way, basically, to just keep your money away from the government. Mm-hmm. Keep it under your control in your foundations, in things that you can use for, only charitable activities, which kind of almost means whatever you want. But
it's insane.
It's also, it's not... When you give it to these foundations and stuff, it's not just, I kept my money, but it also makes you look good because you're going to go out there and it's like PR for you. You get to keep that money.
It's free PR. Yeah. It's not just free PR. It's
tax benefit
cheap PR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was looking at some statistics on this too.
Tell me.
Okay, well, they're like protecting their money, but they are, giving that money out. So that's good, right? We're getting a lot for that. We're getting maybe more than our money's worth in terms of if we tax them versus if they do it themselves.
That doesn't seem real.
It's not.
Tell me why.
Even billionaires who give the most, like proportional to their wealth, like absurd. The highest I found was Warren Buffett giving like 3.9% of his wealth to charity. That's a ton because most of these guys give like 0.1% of their wealth to charity. And you're even talking like Jeff Bezos, who will be like, oh, I give so much. Well, dude, you make so much. So it's
so you should give way more.
Yeah. And if you're talking like versus just like wealth taxing them or something, we're making chump change off these guys.
Oh, for sure.
We would get way more if we taxed them more. And this is not even entertaining the crazy socialist notion of maybe, I don't know, socializing the distribution of our collective labor. Like we'd get a fuck ton more that way.
Oh, for sure. If we just fucking tax them, it'd be so much easier than like doing this weird crazy pipeline we have.
Yeah, yeah. So we barely get anything compared to what we would if we tax them or if we just fucking nationalize their companies, expropriated them as a class.
For sure. This is another Rob Reich quote that I really enjoyed. He kind of just talks about all the different ways this fucks people over. So you have a foundation.
Okay.
And so basically it's just a wealthy person with too much money. What do I do with all this money? Poor me.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
So then just starts this weird cycle of them doing every single thing they can to diminish the tax contribution legally. So first they say, the government can't do things. They're the government. They're bad at things. Let me do
They're
things.
inefficient. Yeah, blah, blah, blah.
So now it's my job because I'm a benevolent motherfucker.
I'm good. Yeah.
I'm one of the chosen
Worthy.
few. So I'm going to create benefits at my own choosing.
For the people who deserve it.
For people who deserve it. And I'm going to take a tax break.
Nice.
And I'm going to ask everyone to like kiss my ass over it. So like, it's just like the fucking entitlement of it. Just like bow down to me for instead of supporting like you having the right to live, me giving it to you.
Yeah.
Like it's insane.
Yeah. They want a trophy. They want the adulation of everyone for something that we were just going to do as a society. Like we could just do this.
We could just do it, guys. We literally could just do it. Like, mark my fucking words. This is going to come out probably later, obviously, but they're going to bail out the fucking stock market before they give us our fucking stimulus check. Like, they're going to do it. They're already meeting for that, I'm pretty sure.
If it comes down to it, yeah, they'll always do that before what sort of checks did homeowners see when the whole market collapsed and everybody was underwater and their mortgages nothing? Nothing. People didn't see any sort of relief.
Who got bailed out?
Yeah, but the banks got it. Wall Street got it. Everyone with the power got it. It's capitalism, baby.
It's a bad country, guys. It's a bad one. I don't like it. We should do a new one. All right, next point. This charity stuff. Hey, does it work? At least, are people getting helped?
At least it's got to be helping them, right?
Right.
Wrong.
Oh,
well, I mean, come on. What's our poverty rate? What's our child poverty rate? Our homeless population? Everything. I mean, all of
child hunger. All kinds of stuff. We're bad at most things.
And we are already basically running a government handout system for charitable foundations. We're trying to set it up to be as beneficial, as friendly toward the billionaire philanthropists that should be, they said, taking care of this shit. But here we are. People are still suffering.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Yeah, I mean, it's like rich people aren't good at solving people's problems.
Well, I mean, it's like we're talking about fucking Andrew Carnegie. I don't think he ever met a poor person.
He had no idea.
They don't know what their problems are. They just straight up don't.
Yeah, it reminds me of that Arrested Development quote. It's like, I mean, it's one banana, Michael. What could it cost? $10?
$10? I mean, yeah, that is very much it. They think that if they can just get these people to work hard enough that they'll magically become bosses like them. And I'm like, first off, even if that worked, not everyone can be a boss. Like that's not going to work. That's not how things work.
We can't just market MLM stuff to each other like all day. And that's just our economy.
That's what they want. Yeah. I mean, first off, you're still going to inherently leave people out, which means you inherently think that some people are worth less because they don't have what it takes to be a boss.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And secondly, I don't remember my second point. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, they try all these stupid, development ideas. Like, oh, well, it's entrepreneurship. Instead of doing charity, we'll do microloans or, which just to me sounds very loan sharky and scammy. I don't know.
It is. It has interest involved. Interest is that's what's there. I mean, it's a payment. It's payment for borrowing money. So you're gonna get your cut.
Yeah.
It's micro and it may have a manageable interest rate. So, and this is the same thing that the IMF does, that the World Bank does, unless it's called explicitly a grant. That's what they're doing is they're loan sharking these countries and stuff. And we have that internally here too, through these sorts of development micro loans and whatever.
God, all these stupid ass ideas like, oh, just I don't know. I mean, we listen to the Trillbillies a lot here, and so they have lots of great episodes on this. So go listen to them for great examples. Like, oh, just make the miners become beekeepers. Like, what? Not everyone can just be a beekeeper.
Yeah, all the crazy Appalachian, like small business development things or whatever that they talk about are just so absurd. You're just like,
they're so great. This choice.
yeah. But there's this idea of, focusing on entrepreneurship, on skills. They're not really focused on providing for people's needs, which is, again, as socialists, as communists, as leftists, that's what we want to do. We want to focus on what do people need? Let's do that. Whether it's through a worker state or through a commune or whatever, that's what we're trying to address. These people aren't concerned about that. They want to find a way to extract labor power from people. That's why they want to set up businesses and stuff.
Because at the end of the day, even if you're providing them with like stuff to make a startup, if you don't have healthcare or like food, I don't think your startup's going to go very well, bud. Like you are just trying to survive. You got to do that first.
Yeah. And you're right. They are just out of touch. They have no idea what people actually need. They don't understand. Yeah, they're concerned with survival instead of with how can I market myself more effectively. Like, that's not it, dude. So yeah, for one, they're out of touch. For two, as a class, they're just not actually interested in doing what would really help the downtrodden, which would be to liberate them. They just want to they want to paper over the problem. They want to not have to deal with this anymore, pretty much.
Basically, yeah.
Reason number 5, charity requires overhead costs. So kind of it's inefficient in a different way. It requires its own funding, sort of. For sure.
Just the salaries of these people, just all the different roles they have in their giant organizations. Like, for me, it's the galas that really does it for me.
Ooh, yeah. Tell me more. I don't know too much about this.
So I've been to a couple because I have a family member who's involved in a charitable organization and has been for most of her career. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
How can these people lecture poor people about spending their money when they throw fucking galas that are, $100 a plate or whatever, and you're all socially pressuring each other to, be a part of this silent auction, and whoever wins gets a fucking ski vacation in Colorado.
A ski vacation? I don't even know how much a ski vacation in Colorado would run.
I don't know, but it's a private, chalet or whatever. It's a big deal.
Damn.
They're literally auctioning off cruises and all this ridiculous shit. And it's like, just give that money. If you have that money, just give the money. What are you doing?
But if you give the money, if you just give that money to some poor person, they're probably going to blow it on a ski vacation in Colorado,
Whatever.
Which is
they
unworthy,
deserve it. Fuck. If you're an essential worker right now, you deserve a ski vacation in Colorado. Except I don't believe in skiing. I think that is just falling down a mountain. It's just... You're asking to get hurt.
I don't want to go skiing, but I believe in it. I think people should have
I believe it exists.
Well, no, but people should have access to it. I want to provide for a lottery where our commune, whoever fucking wants to go skiing can go skiing if you want.
Yeah, you can ski if you want. I think extreme sports are how white people feel fear. That's my theory, and I stick with it.
Like roller coasters.
Exactly. Yeah. They've never felt the fear of being in trouble, so they need to invent their own thrills.
Well, not everyone. I mean,
Not everyone, I know. I'm just generalizing because I'm an asshole. Anyway, but no, it is remarkable. And I've heard lots of arguments for it. No, we need to make them feel connected to this cause. And it is literally all about stroking these people's egos and making them feel important so that they'll donate more money to you. And it's isn't that gross? Why... Doesn't that mean they're a bad... If I have to, cajole this person into giving money for something as basic as, a food bank, what does that say about this person that they won't do it unless you fucking suck their dick first?
Yeah. I mean, remember, they're very good and moral and upstanding because they're among the elect.
I guess.
But no, yeah, you're right. That's just them not being empathetic, right?
They're being overly empathetic to the wrong people, I think.
And it ties in, I guess, to our first reason of this is what happens when you have a system where you have to depend on these people, on their generosity, is you have to, if they don't have enough generosity, you have to stroke it out of them. I mean, you have to convince them, appeal to their self-interest or whatever to get them to do the right thing.
I mean, I have a very clear example of this. When the pandemic happened, you can't have galas and events and shit. Charitable giving has fucking gone in the shitter. because they're not getting these ego strokes. They're not getting their galas. They're not getting their fucking auctions. They're not getting their ski vacations. And so now they don't have an incentive to give.
Yeah. So what's the point?
They do it for like a social status thing. It is so gross.
That is bizarre.
Yeah, it is so you can be seen at this thing spending lots of money.
We should just film these at some people should film
I'll put
this.
a camera on myself and go.
Yeah, like people should film this undercover sort of thing, and then just air it and just put it on YouTube and be like, this is a gala. They raised this much money. This is what they did. This is how this many people were fed, and just watch the sumptuous affair that it is and say, this is what they thought that they had to go through to make sure that this many, that however many people were fed or housed or whatever.
Yeah, I don't understand the logic. Like, if I'm here, I'm a fucking child, and I'm trying to make money or something. I'm going to make a lemonade stand. My first thought is not, well, I better go spend a bunch of money first before I try to earn money for this thing.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't make any sense. It is a crazy pipeline.
It's wasteful. Like you said, just give them the money, right? Okay,
You have it. I see it.
But no, we want to spend it on all the in-between stuff too. The venue, the catering, the valet parking, all that. And that's also not money that's really, productively spent because, it provided jobs for the people manning the gala.
Great. I'm sure that was their dream.
Yeah. It's also that is exploitative labor too.
Yeah,
so
I'm
they're
sure
also
they
getting
weren't
ripped off there.
provided benefits for that part-time gig. So, yeah, fuck off.
You don't think that pays well?
I'm going to guess no.
Yeah. I guess the overall argument we're making is it'd be better for people to just be paid more at their jobs or to own their own fucking workplaces and, get what they're actually producing for their bosses instead of it all going to their bosses. That would be better than ripping them off first and then giving back them a penny for every dollar that they've ripped them off.
Yep. And eating a steak dinner over it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got really mad about the ski vacation thing. I'm coming back down from it. It just makes no sense. All right.
So we've been talking, I guess, about how charity, it's fucked up that we have to rely on somebody to deign it okay for us to exist. It's fucked up that we have to meet all of their little requirements to be worthy. It's fucked up that the rich can just kind of hold this money away and keep control over it. It's just free PR for them and basically ripping off the government the whole time.
It's both money laundering in the I'm making money off of this situation and in the I'm laundering my reputation sense. So
yeah.
it's very it's
a
bad.
double. Yeah. Also how it's just, ineffective, how it's wasteful in terms of its spending. And that's just counting charities that actually do something that we can point to and say, here it is. This is what they do. That doesn't always happen.
Yeah. I mean, I found this crazy stat from that Rob Reich again. He said more than 90% of the roughly 100,000 private foundations in the United States have no website.
Whoa. What?
If you're a charity, presumably you want people to give you money. And the easiest way to do that is to fucking have a website.
Yeah, you would think.
Right? Are these all just fake?
We have a Patreon page. We have, technically you have the Podbean page. You could go to that.
Yeah, it's not very pretty, but we have it.
Yeah, it exists. They just don't. Do they have social media accounts or something?
So it's just that they're completely donor directed. So it's just the trust doing whatever the fuck they want with that money.
I've heard of these. I've heard of donor advised funds, which is apparently where you can just dump your money, avoid the taxes, and not really have to pay anything out to anybody. You don't have to report for years and years any sort of we did this with the money. It's just a fund in you can put it in a financial Fidelity, Vanguard, something like that, and it's just hidden.
Yeah, basically, it's insane, guys. This is stupid. People have too much money. The wrong people have too much money. I think they're the chosen, bad ones, not chosen few in a good way. Chosen few is in the worst ones.
The vilest creatures that capitalism has wrought.
Yes.
That's wild. So they're just putting it in a hole, basically.
I think so, yeah.
Or in a stock fund that they can sell.
Either way, not transparent,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's... I just like that we covered all the ways that it's openly bad, and then also, it could also be secretly bad.
It could also just be who the fuck knows, because they're not going to tell you. and they
this
don't
is just
have
the
to.
shit we could find.
Exactly. Okay. I think we've gotten angry enough. I feel like I need to go lie down, bring my blood pressure down.
Yeah, I guess the flip side of that, just to tie a bow on this, is that, we've been saying how charity is all the ways it falls short, right? What we offer, what leftists want to pursue, again, we've mentioned this a few times, but just to drive home the point, is that we're focused on providing for people's needs, focused on putting people in charge, making sure that the society, right, regular people are in charge of their own fates, in charge of their own well-being, their own existence.
Yeah, it's basically just trusting people instead of just thinking they're inherently going to make bad decisions.
Yeah, we want them to be in control of their workplaces. We want to make them to be actually getting what they are worth as far as their labor or as far as their existence. They should just be able to exist without working. That's kind of the future we're working toward, is let's just have humans, man. Let's just, just be.
Yeah. What if we just chilled?
Yeah. So anyway, that's our counterpoint.
Cool. Have you considered communism?
It's great. Take a listen to our previous episodes to find out more.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Well, what do you want to learn about next time?
Next time, let's take it on back home.
Yeah.
Good old Texas.
Hell yeah. So we are going to go over a few Texas communes I found in our history.
Awesome.
And I've been writing up some fun facts about them.
Cool.
And yeah, I think it'll be a fun one.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Cool.
Communes can even happen in Texas, apparently.
Right? All right. In the meantime, you can find us online. We are on Instagram at teachmecommunism, Twitter at teachcommunism. You can send us an email, teachmecommunism@gmail.com. There you can send us questions, suggestions for future episodes. Also, send us if you have cool communes in your region, like currently. I'm struggling to find like current day communes. I think that'd be a cool continuing segment. So if you know about those, send them to me. That'd be cool.
Yeah, for sure.
If you want, you should leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. It is like the best way for people to find us. Even if you're not an Apple user, you can still leave a review with Apple Podcasts.
And it's not for charity, but we would still appreciate you stoking our egos with those reviews.
I need it for my health. I posted a great selfie the other day, and I feel like 20% stronger from all the positive comments. So
nice.
Anyway, what else? We are on YouTube. If you prefer listening that way, just give us a search there. And we have a Patreon, patreon.com/teachmecommunism. For $5 a month, you get access to our cool notes. And this time, both of us took notes. Mine have lots of rude drawings on them. So get excited.
Yeah, I've got my PDF of the Gospel of Wealth, but also just the notes of what we're running through on the episode. So, this is maybe 3 things of notes.
Yeah, triple notes this time. Come on.
Awesome.
Delicious. And the funds from that will not go to charity. They will go to a local mutual aid fund. I believe in one of our very early episodes, we talked about the difference between charity and mutual aid. So you can go back in the archives and look for that. But yeah, we're going to, last year we donated to Feed the People Dallas, which is a great Black-led, women-led, Latinx-led mutual aid fund here in Dallas. So I'm not sure about next year, but we'll find a similar organization.
Hell yeah. Solidarity, not charity. All right. Well, thanks for the discussion. This was interesting and
rage-inducing.
Mind-melting.
Definitely. Yeah, it was really crazy seeing how the other half, well, not the other half, the other 5% thinks.
The other 5% in their lackeys.
Yeah, I guess.
So hopefully that gives you all some ammunition the next time you talk to people of that persuasion.
Yeah.
But anyway, listeners, you can catch us next week on another episode of Teach Me Communism, where the class struggle is always in session.
Bye, y'all.
Goodbye.